we have a new member of the family. This is Peanut. She's not very happy that she's on camera, so I'm gonna put her down. She's very cute though. Can I say hi? That's a no. Hi, my name is Mildly Gothic. And if you are new here, welcome back to my channel. What I like to do is a variety of artsy things. And today is part 2 of my weird, crazy Beetlejuice puppet project. And I realized I don't think I explained it that well last time. So what I'm doing is I'm making Beetlejuice's wedding suit from the end of the movie and a sandworm puppet that wraps all the way around the body. So it's mostly just gonna be, you know, a stuffed pillow wrapped around my body. And then the hand is going to be a puppet. And I mean, I think this says it better than anything. Oh, ruining my dramatic reveal, hold on. We have a functional prototype. Not prototype, this will be the final thing. I do not have enough time or materials to make something else, but this is what I have so far. So a few things. I'm waiting on materials for Michael's because Michael's said it would deliver something to me and it's been not delivered yet, so I'm a little annoyed. He will kind of sit with a permanent open in his mouth and I think that's fine. I do kind of want to do the tongue. I'm not entirely sure what we will do, but what you will see in this video, what is this video about? You will see how this went from just basically plain cardboard to actually having the full teeth and everything in there. Attaching this on and starting the process on the second mouth. This one, I had kind of made a lot more progress in my head as far as how everything was going to connect, and I realized I don't have the materials to actually do it. So logistically, I think I have this planned a lot more as far as materials, plans, approach, all of that. But unfortunately, it is those materials that I am lacking, which is what's prohibiting me from continuing this endeavor. However, you will still notice the runtime on this video is long. And that's because a lot of this has taken me longer than I thought it would. So we're gonna hope that I can get through the rest of this when Michaels delivers my materials. I'm not upset, you're upset. I am a little upset, but we'll work through it. The reason is, I really need the thin one to achieve better flexibility. I do have a path forwards if they don't deliver it, and by the time this video goes up, I record these intros several days in advance. I may have just decided to go for the scraps that I have. We will see. It depends on if I get my materials or not. So with that, welcome to part 2, chaotic boogaloo of making a sandworm puppet for no reason other than I think it would be really cool. If you also think it's a really cool idea, you should tell YouTube and hit the like button down below so other people can maybe find this video. Subscribe to the channel if you want to stick around for the weirdness and chaos. The 4-legged creature I showed is not the only 4-legged creature I have. I have a dog named Domino. I have several videos. Maybe I'll remember to link one up in the corner. I do all sorts of artsy things here. This is just my current endeavor, and I'm really excited for it, and I can't wait to take you on the journey of how it all comes together. So, thank you so much for watching, and let's get into it. So, progress update. Where are we at? So, here's the head. And I got those inside bits all dremeled. There's a few portions where the cardboard kind of did slip and show through. I think when I get to hitting it with a white primer, that should be totally okay. I have a jar of teeth because as I've been waiting to figure out what I want to do next, I've just been making teeth like a madwoman because I'm going to need an absurd amount of teeth for this thing. And I don't even know if this is enough, if these are the right shape. So, yeah, I have teeth galore. I did save all the scraps from them. I'm not entirely sure if I'll need them or if that was a good idea or not. Like, some of the teeth I think look really good. I think that one looks pretty decent. This one clearly got a little wobbly, but luckily I can, you know, treat these with heat. I think that one looks pretty nice. I can treat these with the heat gun to try to, like, bend or get a little bit more of an interesting shape. But for right now, instead of a jar of dirt, I've got a jar of teeth. Anyways, that's enough of bad references for today. So, what am I doing next? I also have the elastic. There's no way to show it in this one, but the elastic is glued into the bottom of the puppet. So now that this sits nicely there, it means I can actually model and hold both pieces next to each other. We're gonna try to get this. There we go. So few places I can go from here. I think with practice, I can open and close the mouth pretty consistently, and it doesn't have to close perfectly. And I think they're going to be a little bit off center. I don't know if they're supposed to be. That's kind of how they're going to be. I don't think I can get it to be necessarily matchy at the tip. I could probably if I moved this back a little bit. So, you know, I guess that's something I can still do. But where I kind of want to go, because I don't really have the foam to finish out, I kind of wanted to finish this full head first, but I don't have the foam for the rest of the head. So while I'm waiting on it, I got to come up with some other things to do. And if I push this onto my hand, there we go, we can get kind of a better lineup of those two pieces. And I think it's just going to take practice to make sure I can open and close the head. I'm also thinking of putting maybe an elastic here, just more to keep these aligned than anything, not necessarily to serve any kind of structural or real purpose. So to be seen. So, but obviously the sandworm has two heads. This is only one. So I got to figure out where I want that opening of the mouth to come. And most depictions, that V point comes pretty immediately after this head, like where the jaw connection goes. So I'm thinking it's going to sit here. And so now the question is, well, how do I build that up or attach that or support it in some way? I don't want to attach these two heads to each other. My thought is basically make a, I was going to say gauntlet. I don't know the proper term for the piece of shoulder armor, but basically 2 strips of cardboard so that it fits around kind of the triangle of my arm, because, you know, arms are a trapezoid, and I'm worried with just one piece it might slip down, but if there's 2, maybe it'll hold it a little bit more stable, and then kind of build and mount the head off of that so it'll be more stable to kind of based on the rotation of my arm and not attached to this head. I'm probably going to attach some fabric from this that goes up under my arm as a sleeve. So this may be an entirely separate piece, but I'm going to, I think, work on drafting the next head with that assumption, because I think these probably can be about the same size. The outer one's just going to be a little bit wider to make sure it like fits. In my infinite wisdom, instead of having patience and, you know, putting the rubber cement on one section at a time and slowly applying it, I covered the entire thing in rubber cement and put the outer shell on at once and very nearly ruined everything. Don't do that. I should have started very small. I should have started probably at the back, because the eye sockets are where I know how this thing should sit. That's really where I should have started. I didn't. But I did manage to get it on after a few attempts, and it ended up sitting mostly correctly, so we just went with it. But yeah, kids, start with your reference point and go from there. Don't do what I did. Luckily it worked, but man, that was a stupid decision. So clearly I'm trying to start a new fashion statement with cardboard bracelets. I'm not. I just decided to make these cardboard rings as kind of theoretical attachment points for the outside mouth. Am I going to use them? I don't know. Did I make them? I did, and now I have bendy strips of cardboard, so I don't really know what to do with them. But they have an intended purpose, to yet be seen if they're actually going to serve that purpose. I know things are a little disjointed, but now I'm starting the cardboard shell for the outer head. The only thing I really knew is I wanted it to be about the same snout length as the inner head. It's bigger, but that's fine. And I needed it to also be wider, so I wanted to make sure I used a wider piece of cardboard and kind of traced out a general shape for the snout and cut it out. I'm still using the same Spindrift box. Turns out it's got a lot of extra cardboard to use. So there's a good bit I haven't gotten on film, and so I will update you now. So we're gonna put on the inside of the sandworm mouth. So there's an interesting problem to this, and I should have seen it coming. It's really hard to work on what the outside mouth is supposed to look like when I'm trying to judge it against the inside mouth while also needing hands to do things. So what I have is this so far. This is supposed to be the bottom mouth. There's a slit in the center, so I can kind of almost create that double bump that he's got on the bottom of his chin. And so this would be the stop of one color, and then the next one would probably start there, because obviously the outside head is the striped one. There's a little bit of this bump out of the bottom lip as well, which kind of helps open up the mouth around the inner head. So the joint, basically the mouth is supposed to hinge here. It's really supposed to be like pretty close to this, but I want the hinge point, I have no idea what's in frame. I want the hinge point to be about here. As you can see, I've got two kind of bracelets on right now. Currently the bottom mouth is like really not super attached to the bottom one, and that is because that's as much as I could get it attached while holding this thing. And I'm getting a lot better at manipulating the top sandworm head. So the problem is like figuring out how to manipulate the bottom one. And so this was my initial first cut of the top half of the head. And so here you're about to see the lovely problem I'm having of trying to stage everything. And so, because that doesn't look right, and it may not look right because I don't have the bubble built up on the top of the head. I'm trying to decide if that looks good enough to go ahead and keep working on it, or if I should try to cut out a different piece of shape for this. I'm not entirely sure, because whatever the width is, I'm also trying to make sure this head fits nicely in there, because it's not supposed to be crazy open, but basically these should be able to open to about the same. So that looks pretty good, but there's going to be teeth and all sorts of other things. So maybe that doesn't look like the worst. I also can't really get a different angle on it. I think I might do what I did for the bottom, and I'm gonna cut a line through there and bend it up even more and flare this out, and then that piece might look a little bit more correct. Because this is about the shape. It really does curve away so that you can see more of the inside head. And so I think that's what I'm gonna do there. I'm gonna do the same thing I did on this one that's kind of hard to see. I just cut a slit all the way across and cut like a little diamond piece out of it, and then scrunched it together and added a bunch of tape because I'm doing this one-handed. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and do that to this piece. The audio through this clip is probably changing a lot because I went from sitting to standing, and so I'm different distances from the microphone. I'm so sorry. But this is really interesting because the good news is this head is completely static. So I'm gonna be attaching the cardboard to each other and have this head just be one thing, because hopefully that'll make it easier. And I can make the outside seam look nicer because it'll all be connected. So we will figure that out. I'm having a little bit too much fun with the head. I think the inside head looks really good for what it is right now. I am still debating putting the attachment point for my thumb a little bit further back just so I can actually make the mouth close a little bit more. But we've got a base figured out. I'm gonna work with that and see if I can't get it attached to this, and then I might actually be in a good spot.
The one thing I realized is that the outer snout has, in a lot of depictions, basically these bubbles on its snout that kind of help with the bend out, because it's not just a open like the inner mouth, it actually kind of flares out. And so I wanted to try to capture that in the cardboard. I can obviously, do that with the foam on top of it, but I wanted to try with the cardboard, so I cut a slit out and then cut an oval, shape out of the cardboard, and then squished the two pieces together to get that bend in it and secured it with a lot of tape. Needs a lot of tape because this is putting the cardboard under tension, so it didn't work the best if you don't just really, really secure it with tape. Could I have glued it? Probably. Will I? Actually, maybe. That's probably a good idea. Like the inner head, I wanted to make sure I had a really good spot for the eye cavity, but due to that different shape, I decided additional pieces of cardboard would probably be the best way to get that bump on the head. So I cut out these two smaller pieces and tried to kind of fit them in a way that looked like the dome of what his head is supposed to be, and then taped them together in about-ish the right spot. Not worried about where the eyes go right now, just trying to get the shape right.
Okay, I have no idea what's been in frame because this thing is becoming a monstrosity to film and work with, not gonna lie. But that's why I want to get a foundation, because once I get a foundation and everything's kind of attached, then I think I can take it off and do all of the details and stuff separately. I'm debating how I want to do the eyes for the top one. I have, more ping pong balls, and these ones don't necessarily need to look as sunken, so I may just use the lettered sides, and they're just going to be full red. So I have this. The top part is kind of slumped down. I haven't like really fully taped that together. One of the things I'm going to have a hard time with is making sure this is fully attached to my arm, but also maintaining a good width. And so, so when I hold it, and sideways is kind of the best way to approximate how all of this is going to fit together because it's the easiest way to maintain this. I don't think that looks half bad. If you pretend that there's eyeballs here, you know, and this has the coloring, and I did my best to make sure these sections were the same because the white and black sections are supposed to be the same across this creature. He's gonna start off with probably a black nose because the white is supposed to be on the eyes, so depending on how big I do the strips, black, white. But if I can get that solidified and probably cut out some eye cavities in there, I think that's a much better shape. I think getting the shape of the head made it look a lot better, and I think that's a decent placement. Again, the biggest thing is I need to make sure it's going to be wide enough so that I can get the teeth in, and immediately opening that up wider already also looks better if I can sort of look at it from above. Yeah, opening it wider so this guy is not as claustrophobic, because that looks terrible. But opening it up wider, I think that looks so much better. So I think I'm gonna need some extra supports in here. Sorry for kicking the table. I think I'm gonna need some supports and stuff in here to make sure that this stuff gets held at a certain distance away. But because I like this general shape, I'm gonna work on cutting out some eye cavities and finalizing this top part, because I'm not gonna worry about like placement along with the bottom one right now. That I think is going to be a separate thing, and I may even need to get like my boyfriend's help for that. We'll see. But the good news is this actually stays on my arm quite well, and I think is definitely going to be the anchor point. I thought I was going to need a second one, to be determined. Could help anchor stuff for the mouth, unsure. Currently that's just where that sits. And so I like the first mouth. I think that looks really good. So yeah, I like the shape. I like where we're going. This is actually starting to look sort of like a thing. I can't wait for the foam to get here so I can actually like make this mouth up and make it what it's supposed to be. And we're gonna figure it out. I'm also considering attaching this to this at some point. I don't know. Depends on how I put this on. Lots of things, lots of thoughts, lots of things, lots of thoughts. Yeah, making progress for sure. Just don't know where to go next is kind of the theme of this project. So I'm gonna get those eye holes and try to make this top part a lot more structurally sound, and then I'll probably approach how to actually securely attach it to this wristband in a way that I don't glue myself to it, because that would be not ideal. So let's go, I guess. Man, this is complicated.
Now that I'm happy with the snout curve and general placement, it was eye time. And just like the first head, these are not even. They're so not even. I tried 2 different times with different Sharpies. You can see it's kind of because the snout's not even. Again, he's an organic creature. Would it be better if he was probably symmetrical? Maybe, but I think he's cute, so it's fine. I did use my existing eyeballs as kind of templates to figure out how tall the eye hole should be and help me figure out what placement looked good. So even if it's not symmetrical, I did try to at least make sure the placement looks good on both sides. These were a little bit challenging to cut out because I did have to, compromise the connections I had between the 2 halves of the head, but then I just played connect the dots with the lines on either side of the cardboard and it was fine. But yeah, basically just cut out the eye holes and it worked pretty well.
So switching gears for a second, and I've decided to work on the eyes, and I am going to at least start with using the other halves of the ping pong balls from these eyes, and I know they're not even halves, and I did do that on purpose for these, not necessarily thinking I was going to use this half, but I'm going to try, so we'll see how good they look. I may, fake continue the edge if I need them to look more rounded, but one of the things I was concerned about is the logo. Notice that one doesn't have one, because it actually sands off really easily, and I may mute the next few seconds depending on how awful this sounds on camera, but
scrapey sounds are one of the few sounds I can't deal with, so I am personally going to save your ears while I can.
So like there's just a little bit. I personally, I have earbuds in right now. I can't stand the sound of sanding. It's one of the few like scrapey sounds that like really bothers me. So probably gonna mute it just in case there's anyone else out there that's like me. But I'm basically going to, so it's not a fully even sand right now. I'm probably gonna rough up the outside of this and then do a coat of white and let that sit before going through and doing the full red eye that he has. And I'm thinking of doing very pale red in the center, and kind of similar to how I brought in these shades, I'm going to do dark red on the outside kind of in, but there's not going to be a pupil or anything. These are just going to be fully red eyes. So that's what...
The previous clip, it was cut short, and that is because I was sanding while talking and it was grating on my ears, so I decided to spare you. But I decided to base the ping pong balls in white. I don't know if it helped, but I did it. I then used a red on top of it, trying to not get fingerprints all over the place, but it's very hard because ping pong balls are small, let alone half of one. I don't know that I got it on film, but I'll talk about it. I used the same brown that I did for the other eyes in the iris to be my darker color on the outside and kind of bring that in to get a dark color on the outside to a lighter but still vibrant red in the center, and they look great. They're shaded red domes. What more could you ask for? So I was not thinking, and I decided to trace the outside of the mouth to give me the shape for what needed to go in it. I really should have just turned it upside down and traced that U shape and then cut it a little bit wider to allow for the fact that I do want it to concave into the mouth. It's fine, I have plenty of this material. I am using my 4mm foam here because I was out of my 2mm and I really wanted to make progress, so sometimes you just gotta make do. 4mm is the size I have like the most of, so it's totally fine material, I got plenty of it. But I traced it, outlined it, and then used my heat gun to kind of help me form and shape it into place after using my scissors to kind of trim it down. I did cut all of the edges at an angle. I used my scissors. It's not a very sharp angle, but it is somewhat of an angle, and that was to try to help the adhesion on the edge because I feared when I pushed it down in the center, the flat edge would just be sticking up and it would just be harder to seal versus if I cut it at an angle and then it's pushed in at an angle. Now the angled side is the same slant as the outside wall. Complicated explanation. I don't know if it makes any sense, but it did to me, even though I don't know that it really did anything, but that's okay. Getting this in place was so much easier than the outside. I really just used my heat gun to kind of help me. Once I had rubber cement on both sides, I used the heat gun to heat it up and just kind of massage it gently into place. It is only sealed around the edges because that's the only place it really needed it. And just kind of stuck it down for once, actually starting at the nose where I needed to and going back. So everything worked just fine and I was able to get the mouth in.
So I really want to make progress, which is why the inside layer here is a 4mm piece versus the 2mm I used for the outside. I did want to use a thinner one, but I have that on order because Michael's has, like, this stuff obviously not everyone's buying, so it's really in limited supply. Should I have ordered more when I started this? Definitely, and I just waited too long. So instead, I have some pretty decent strips that I was able to salvage from the making of the outside, and so I'm going to kind of use the bottom jaw as a test because, I don't know, maybe it won't, I don't think it'll be as visible. Not entirely sure. So they're all kind of, and it doesn't really matter that it's wavy because the way that I'm going to do this, and this is why I'm doing it like this and not in a voiceover. So the way that I think this is going to work is I'm going to glue this basically in line with this bottom piece. And I'm going to have to obviously use the heat gun and get this to be pliable. And once that's glued in basically flat like that, I'm going to wrap it and put this flat edge against here. So it'll sit like that and then basically just kind of squish it until I can get that nice big puffed lip all the way around. And once I have that, so once I have kind of the puff lipped established, I'm going to put the teeth in place and probably use a lot of the multiple clay foam to kind of sit down and around and build up what look like more gum-like structures around these teeth. So that's what I'm going to do. I have these two long strips. I'm not entirely sure the best way these things are going to attach, but I'm going to go, and so the hand is going to sit at a minimum like this, so I'm only concerned about coming to the edge of this cardboard here. I'm not concerned about coming all the way to the edge of the foam. So I'm gonna start this here at the edge of the foam and take it around. So the seam is gonna be relatively towards the front, but the hope is, again, I'm gonna contact cement these two things together and hopefully be able to get it to, I think, what side did I want to do this with? Yeah, you have the swoop, so I just have to cut that and figure out how I want it, and then that's gonna go around like that. So we're gonna see how this is gonna work. I figure this jaw is the smallest piece, so if I screw this up, it wastes the least amount of materials. That's why I'm starting with this one as my test, and I can go to the upper jaw when I get to it. But I figured if I'm gonna screw something up, I'd rather screw up the smaller piece than the bigger one, especially because the bigger one has all of the extra detailing for the eyes. Like if I screwed this up, this would just be a lot harder. Oh, I also added some little stick supports and Gorilla Glued those in there because this was bending, so now this shouldn't bend and should be much more stable for my hand. I haven't noticed as much bending with this one. I also did make a second support. I haven't actually glued the secondary elastic in yet, but I don't think it'll be a problem. I think I can get to it. If not, well, it's a little too late now. We'll figure it out. So yeah, I'm going to experiment with this and try to get basically the lip put all the way on, and then we'll pause and figure out the teeth. But this is going to be a really tedious, weird process, so we're going to go with it.
So the way that I approached doing the lip was matching one edge all the way up against the seam from the mouth lining, and I glued that all the way in first, and then I applied the contact cement to the outer edge and the surface of the mouth, not too high because it is kind of a bubble lip. It's not just laying flat against, it kind of puffs out. And then I used my heat gun to help so I could make sure it's a nice smooth transition, and I heated up the lip and then curved it over and stuck it right on the head. Once a good section of lip was done, I kind of hit it with the heat gun again and then squished it because it's not supposed to be, in my opinion, like a super bubble. I kind of wanted it to be a flat bubble so it would look taller, if that makes any sense. I wanted it to be flatter and tall, but still look like a bubble, and I just did that slowly but surely the entire way around. The front nose of this was a little bit difficult, and I've recently done the top half of the mouth. It's not in this video, but I definitely learned some lessons that I will be sharing in the next one. Now for everyone's favorite time, teeth time! I had no plan going into this other than I wanted him to look fun. And so I made sure when I was cutting out my teeth to do a bunch of different shapes and sizes so I would have plenty of options to choose from. And then I just kind of played the matching game. I tried to find two teeth of similar shape and size of whatever I wanted, whatever that, shape and size was. And I did try to vary them a little bit. There's not a whole lot of consistency as far as one row of teeth to the next. Again, it is a fictional character, so I thought it's okay if he looks a little goofy, because he's kind of supposed to. I think these teeth worked absolutely perfectly, and were just honestly so much fun, and I just laid them out in the mouth as my plan to figure out how many I would need. So for gluing them in, the teeth did need a little bit of a modification. Obviously, the inside of this mouth is not a flat surface. So what I did is, at a minimum, the outer side of the teeth was cut at a slant so that I could stick it against the wall and have it look vertical. Some of them I did cut the back at an angle to kind of change the general slope of the tooth as well. I didn't do that for all of them on the top jaw, but I do think I did it for almost all of them on the bottom jaw, just to give them a little bit more dimension and character. But once I did that, it was basically just glue them on one set at a time, all the way down, and it was very straightforward.
I think, other than making more scraps, we really have something here. I think this looks really cool, really creepy, and if I put it with the top mask, you see when it gets that lip and that, those teeth, oh, it's going to look so freaking good. I'm super, super excited. I may try to bubble up the back lip here to just kind of help with, how it'll look when his mouth is sort of closed. He's not really going to be able to fully close his mouth, but I think that's fine. I did try to make sure I left a little space at the top. I am still considering putting a tongue in here, and so maybe having a little flick out the front. So what's next is to use the moldable clay foam and try to just basically build up and blend into the center like a gum line all the way around. I'm not too concerned about the outside of the teeth, except for places where they're not sticking the way I want them to. But for the most part, I think that's going to be fine. I'm mostly going to just try to focus on building it up on the inside so I can kind of get that established. But I think that looks super, super freaking cool. I did cut this down a little bit more, and I may even cut it down just a little bit further. We'll see, just so I can get it to sit where I need it to. But yeah, there's the lower jaw of this guy, and I can't wait. I don't think I have enough. The top jaw feels like it's going to be more visible, and I don't have enough of these thin scraps to do it. So I'm just going to focus on getting the bottom one to be you know, more robust. Again, work on my techniques, figure out how I want it to look, and then when the materials come to do the top one, I'll get on it. But yeah, here's my first set of teeth, and this only used 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. Can I count? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. So this only used 18 teeth. I'd approximated a lot more initially, so I may have enough teeth. If not, I've got plenty like extra to cut out. Plus, I was trying to match the shape-ish. He's a, you know, non-real creature, so if it doesn't look perfect, I think that's fine. But yeah, he's got a big old nasty jaw full of teeth, and I'm gonna give him some gums. I am so excited.
So I'm only going to show a little bit of this process, but I did use moldable clay foam to make my gums all the way around all of my different teeth. So I made sure to put a little bit in front towards the lip so it looked like the gum came up on that side, and then built it up on the inside and did my best to smooth it into the center of the mouth. And I did this for each and every single tooth. I think it took me about an hour to do the whole thing, if not maybe closer to 2 hours. I don't know, I'm a bad judge of time. I'm just watching TV in the background.
So this is what I've got, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm really stoked. I think this looks so freaking cool. I'm pretty okay with most of this being pretty bumpy. I mean, it's supposed to be gums. Gums are not smooth. I may build this one up a little bit looking at it, but you know, so I may smooth. I'm planning to hand sand because I think my Dremel's just gonna actually end up nicking more things than it's gonna help with some of these weird angles. So I'm just going to, you know, hand sand some of that. But for the most part, I think this looks the perfect amount of cartoony. I did intentionally put the teeth going in some different angles and different directions because, I don't know, he's a mythical creature. He's not mythical necessarily, but, you know, he's got some weirdness going on. His teeth aren't straight. His mouth isn't perfect, but this actually looks like it's coming together. It doesn't just look like some, you know, hodgepodge cardboard nightmare. It actually looks like really cool. So, I think I'm going to go ahead and do the inner part of the top half of the head, and then I'll see. I don't have the most of these strips left. Is that all I have? Oh no, I have a little bit more. I just don't know how obvious this seam is going to be, and I don't want to do too many if the seams are going to be super, super obvious, because it is going to be on the top part of the mouth. So if I think I can get this seam to look a little bit more seamless, I may go ahead and do it on the top half as well. But for right now, this is where we sit with the jaw, and I think the teeth look so freaking good. I'm so excited.
You can see here that I learned my lesson, and so when I'm measuring out the inside portion for the top jaw, I just measured the U and cut it a little bit wider to account for the slant. It worked just fine and wasted far less materials. I cut the edges just the same as I did the inside, used the heat gun just the same, and placed it just the same as I did the inside of the bottom jaw. I only am showing this part because I did kind of get better from doing it the first time. That's what crafting is always about, learning something new and doing it better the next time.
So I actually think I was able to get that to look pretty seamless. You know, my hope is when it's painted and stuff, maybe it's not as visible. I'm still hesitant about, because here's the thing, I did kind of the math. I did actually find more pieces. The problem is I would need 1, oh goodness, this is like the worst measurement system ever. This is how I ended up buying so many rhinestones for the jacket, but it's fine. 2, 3, 4 pieces, because those are, I think, the longest pieces I have. So yeah, that's a little annoying. So I think I'm gonna have to wait until my actual piece of the 2mm comes in, because I think the 4 is just too thick to be able to bend like that. I don't think it's gonna look super nice. So I fixed up some of the areas around some of the teeth to try to make them look a little bit, I don't know, teethier. That's not a word, but that's kind of what I'm going for. But yeah, so I'm stuck and waiting on that. But what I do have, so one of the things I decided to do, I do have something to show you about the eyes. What I decided to do was paint these little black cardboard discs so that I can basically take advantage of, because I was wondering how I was going to suspend these in here, and I realized, what if I just didn't? I'm just going to basically seal them in with that little cardboard circle, and then basically just, you know, lose control of it inside of the head. Oh goodness. And basically just pop that in there like that, and look at how realistic to me that looks with that shine. I think that looks so good, and I can figure out where I want to position it. If I want them, I think I'm gonna have them tilting, like looking slightly forwards, but I think that just makes sure that now essentially I'm just gonna glue this disc in here, and then the eye is a complete unit, and I don't really have to worry about it. Part of the reason I decided to do this instead of painting the inside of this is I really wanted, not that you're gonna be able to notice, but I like having that effect of looking at it from the side and kind of seeing that clear layer. I don't know, I think that's a really neat touch. Is it gonna be visible to anyone? Probably not, but I just thought that was really nice. So we've got the eyeballs sitting in there like that, and I think this one, if I rotate it, yeah, we can get a better look going that way. So yeah, I'm super excited. I think the eyes look really, really good. We can make him just roll his eyes. So yeah, my eyeballs are there, and I have the other ones too. So these are the eyes for the outer head, and if you'll notice, this one's kind of a maraca. And that's because these eyes are actually, you know, the slightly larger of the halves of the ping pong ball. So when I sandwich these in there, they basically don't have room to move. See, they're not moving. These ones, however, do have room to move, but that's fine. It just means I'm gonna glue them to that first before sticking them in there. You know, honestly, or the alternative is just shove the cardboard disc in there further, because now, no shaking. And I think those look pretty good. They're just supposed to be big red eyeballs, and these go obviously in the top head like that. The problem I keep running into though when testing it is once I stick those, oh, that came out so easily. I have had the hardest time when I stick the eye in there actually getting it out again. Maybe that just shows I've done it so many times, I'm getting good at it. But yeah, so I have my eyes all planned out, and I think they look so good. And again, he has no pupils or irises. The outside head just has big red eyeballs with no expression. I don't always do outros, but I'm gonna do one for this one because I don't really have a good stopping point that I got to in the project. Yeah, so as you can see, I think I'm at a really good point. I've been able to get the cardboard form to look great, and I'm going to be off to the races as soon as my foam comes in and I can cover the outside jaw with the foam, because I think that top mask is perfectly in shape. Peanut is clawing at a doormat in the corner. I think the top mask is already the shape it needs to be. I have the eye sockets and everything. I just need to be able to, I want to fill up this with some of that moldable clay foam just a little bit, like I did for this guy. Cover him with foam, do the same process with the teeth and everything. And like, I will be off to the races if I ever get my materials delivered. So, Michael's has made me very upset. It's fine. So, anyways, I know I kind of promised that this would be a substantial update, and it feels substantial to me, even if it doesn't look like it's that much. But if you've made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. It really means a lot to me. YouTube has shown me that only my cosplays will ever do well. And that's okay. I'm kind of here to just do all the artsy things that I want to. If the channel grows, that's awesome, and I would absolutely love that. And if a video doesn't get a lot of views, then people just didn't vibe with that project. Or more accurately, YouTube's algorithm didn't vibe with that project. But I hope if you are a new viewer, you may, peruse the catalog and find something that inspires you. Because I know nothing, I am self-taught, and so all I hope to do is inspire you to make something of your own. With all of that said, this has been a long-winded outro, and the intro was too. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.